Hello everyone, That's My Pizza with another Langrisser Mobile video. And today I am streaming the top 32 match of the Summit Der Langrisser tournament between Guilard Ingram and Tomato. And just to do a quick rundown of both boxes, Tomato looks like he has slightly uh, a slightly glory focused box with Ledin, Elwin, an Illustrial, and Yulia. And then he has some interesting other characters in his box as well, like Omega and yeah, just Omega. But otherwise, his picks are fairly standard. Guilard, his box is a bit more. Well, he's running a 4 tank box, so uh, he's very focused on first picking his carry units essentially, and he has a little bit of a focus on AoE as well. And since he's running Bozel first, he may first uh, pick up Albedo as his tank, but it could also change. And welcome to all the viewers right now. So, just to give you a little heads up, Guilard first banned Rosenseal because he has a fairly AoE heavy box, while Tomato first banned SP Elwin, Yulia, and Ainz. And that might be because his tanks can't really deal with Ellen super well, but who knows. In any case, Tomato, since Rosenseal got banned first, and yeah, since Rosenseal got banned first, he was pretty much safe to pick up some type of healer right now. And so Guilard second picks Licorice, who synergizes very well with Bozel, since Bozel can faction buff for her, and then Licorice can heal and she can deal damage, which is also a very good quality of a good mage. Next, Tomato's getting rid of some AoE threats in Reen, an AoE threat in Reen, and then Rosalia. He gets rid of Rosalia since she has very long legs, and this is a pretty common tactic for draft pick against a box with 4 tanks, in that you ban out all of their damage dealing units or AoE units, so they're forced to play either a 2 tank team or a 2 tank 2 healer team. And then Tomato picks up Omega, which is actually really good against this box, since he can pretty much bypass all the tank's guards, and he can pretty much one-shot any mage that Guilard puts out. So Guilard would really want to focus on trying to deal with that Omega, since he can pretty much one-shot both Bozel and Licorice without issue. So yeah, and Tomatoes actually has a pretty big advantage with these two first pick with Liana and Omega, since Liana is very good with Act Again as P2, because it essentially gives Tomato the opportunity to essentially have 2 units act after all of Guillard's units have acted. Okay. So Guilard picks up Rosenseal, which it kind of works, but I'm not too sure if that was the best pick, because Rosenseal does have a revive on her 3C. She's pretty much out of commission for about 3 turns after she uses it, and yeah, she doesn't have a ton of range, and Tomato isn't well. Tomato could run either Reen or Bozel or SP Elwin, but Rosenseal really won't help him against that Omega. So yeah, I think Tomato has is in a very advantageous spot at the moment, since his Omega can pretty much deal with all the rest of Guillard's picks, and he can deal with all the units that Guilard already picked. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see who Tomato picks up in now. Yeah. Yeah, like he could go and try to get the double AoE and just break through all of Rosen Seal's AoE's barriers, but that'd be pretty tough since that'd give Guilard the opportunity to try to ban out either Reen or Bozel afterwards. And then Tomato picks up Landius, which Landius is just a overall solid tank, though he's not the best against AoEs, which Guilard is running. But Tomato has some follow up synergy with Rachel, who can get rid of some debuffs, and somewhat Deedlit, who can also dispel debuffs and cast Gospel, but both of them got banned. So all that's left for Tomato is Bozel, Reen, Elwyn, Florentia, and Ledin. And I think any of those picks are solid for Tomato, while Guilard is pretty much running a dark team at this time with Bozel, Licorice, and Albedo with Rosenseal to support. And then Tomato gets rid of both Leanna and Sophia. Leanna probably for Gospel and Act Again stuff. And yeah, Tomato picks up Bozel here, so he's probably going to try to punch through all of Rosenseal's barriers with the help of Reen or SP Elwyn, or with the help of Florentia and Leanna's Act Again stuff. And that actually leaves Tomato with either SP Elwyn and Reen. So there's a high chance that Tomato will just throw Bozel in first and then throw in Reen to apply a bunch of debuffs to Guilard. And Guilard really doesn't have much to do, and I need to put up my loading screen and hide this. So we are in the skill and troop pick phase, so I just want to make sure that none of this information gets transferred, spoiled to Tomato or Guilard respectively. So I am hiding that. But I think the overall play-by-play of this match is going to go like Guilard is pretty much going to be zoned out by the Omega, and also hello Xeno Giga Cap. But yeah, Guilard really needs to take out that Omega as soon as possible, because he will pretty much just run wild over Guillard's team, while Tomato pretty much has the advantage. Is pretty much also running a tank push team, and he has the advantage of having both Bozel and Reen to punch through all the Rosenseal's shields, while he has Omega to take out either Licorice or Bozel if their positioning isn't good. And also Tomato has Leanna, so he has a lot more flexibility in his movement, while Guilard is kind of stuck just shoving his tanks forward and trying to all Guilard really can do at this point is just shove his tanks forward and hope and make sure that his mages aren't in range of Omega. And if one of his mages does get into the range of Omega, they're pretty much dead. Same with the Rosenseal, unless her 3C is up. So it's going to be a really tough match for Guilard overall. I think Tomato really won the pick ban phase for this, and we're starting in 3, 2, 1, and I will pull this back up. There we go. So yeah, troop and skill wise doesn't look. Oh, that's actually kind of interesting. The Reen is fully single target, while Omega's pretty much running his normal stuff with just pretty much running his normal stuff. Bozel is also single target, which is interesting to say the least. So it looks like Tomato wasn't confident that he could bust through all of Rosenseal's shields, so he decided to just go full single target. So if that's the case, then I see Tomato's just gonna try to pressure Guilard into making a mistake with Omega. Otherwise, I don't really see how his Rain or his Bozel will be able to break through those tanks. And hello, Vanarin, how's it going? I'm not too sure how to actually use like put work with the Twitch chat in stream, so I'm just leaving it like that because that's the easiest way I figured out how to do it. Yeah, I'll actually be streaming another game, the one between I'll be streaming Jurg's game in about 2 hours. So yeah. So yeah, just early positioning. It looks like Gillard is trying to shift away from the Omega while Gillard Tomato is shoving his units forward so he can start claiming the center. Yeah, and looks like he didn't have Rain transform quite yet since he's not in range to do anything. So his transform would end up just getting wasted. So yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how Guilard deals with that Omega, since that Omega will pretty much win Tomato this match. Yeah, so look, Tomato is shifting his Omega towards both Bozel and Licorice, so he can start applying pressure to them. I don't believe Albedo took Crystal Lancers because I don't think she was expecting to get hit by any single target magic skills. And Golems would work a bit better against the physical attackers, such as Reen or Landius. Though I'm not too sure why she didn't use Phalanxes instead, since those are generally better. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Gillard deals with this situation, because he's can't really start approaching the center without putting his back line into danger of getting assassinated. So what I anticipate Tomato's going to keep doing is he's just going to keep shoving his units forward in a way that doesn't put him in range of Bozel, and it puts his Omega in range of either Bozel or Licorice this turn, since Omega plus Act Again will pretty much guarantee it'll pretty much guarantee that Omega has enough range to either hit Bozel or Licorice even from here. Okay, I'm not 100% sure if that was the correct move, since that gives less range for Omega to actually move up. Yeah, and he pretty much wants Omega as far up as possible at this point, since he won't be able to pressure either Bozel or Licorice without putting his Omega in a bit of danger. So here it seems like Guilard is trying to essentially build a wall around he's trying to build a wall for his Bozel and his Licorice to move, since Omega won't be able to move fully freely through water, since it's difficult terrain and he'll have to expend 2 points of movement to actually pass through that. But unfortunately for Guilard, Omega still has 3 range with his Ullr's bow. So it'll be hard to avoid that Omega no matter what he does. And what I can see here is, well, I don't believe Tomato's Bozel's wearing boots, so he might not be able to hit the Albedo from here. Okay, so looks like. Okay, what is Guilard trying to do here? So I think what he's going to try to do with Rosenseal is build a bit of a wall so his Bozel and Licorice have more movement, more places to hide safely. But we'll see if this is effective. Okay, so yeah, I don't think Tomato's positioning was the best at the moment since his Bozel actually can't follow up on. Well, his Bozel isn't in range to attack Albedo since Landius is in the way, and I don't think Reen won't be able to actually do anything at the moment since he's not even transformed. So there's that. So Guilard actually might have an opportunity to attack first, which is really not ideal for Tomato, since Tomato will either have to throw down Gospel on his Liana so he can freely dispel all the debuffs that Bozel will throw down, or he might need to put his Omega in a very risky position, which he really doesn't want to do because Omega at this point can essentially take out can take out Licorice, can take out Rosenseal, and take out Bozel without too much issue. Though, it looks like Guilard is very afraid of that Omega, and he's positioning his Bozel in a way that won't let him drop his AoEs on Tomato first. Okay. Yeah. So it looks like. Okay, yeah, this is a pretty risky position for Guilard since he's essentially putting Licorice in danger at the moment, though. I think that's gonna allow Tomato to just act again Omega and then take out the Licorice this turn, since Liana can just act again Omega, then he can use Cold Blood from one square outside of Landius's range, or just attack from there and just take out the Licorice, since he's going to teleport back after he kills the Licorice. Yeah, he doesn't even need. Yeah, Omega doesn't even need to use Cold Blood at the moment. But Landius's aura might keep her alive. Oh. Yeah, that's a dead Licorice. Yeah, he's just going to teleport back, take a little bit of damage, but he's going to move behind Landius, and now Bozel is not in range to drop his AoEs at all. So yeah, this looks like it looks pretty bad for Guilard, since he's not going to be able to move his Bozel in with Omega running around. Yeah. And pretty much at this point, Guilard doesn't, Tomato doesn't really need to move. Well, he has a lot of flexibility with his Omega at this point, and Guilard really can't do anything unless he wants to risk his Bozel dying. But the good thing about Guillard's position now is that he will actually have the first attack against. Well, he already had the first attack against Tomato, so actually he's just in a really bad spot. He can't really do much at this point. Yeah, Omega, it will just murder that Bozel, and that Omega still has Cold Blood up, so he still has so much movement. he has so much reach to get to Bozal if need be. And then Tomato can pretty much just use anything with his Bozal and Rain since they're not really doing anything at the moment. Yeah, though I still have to. I'm still not sure if. I don't think it was the best idea not to bring AoEs on both Bozal and Rain since both Bozal will have enough debuffs to punch through Rosenseal's barrier, and then he could just 3C with the Rain willy-nilly. But yeah, I don't see any way for Guilard to come back because all he has right now are 2 tanks to potentially punch through Landius, which really isn't going to happen at all. And a Rosenseal who has already blown her 3C and won't be able to act for another 2 turns. But yeah, I think at this, just in the drafts phase, Guilard probably would have wanted to almost insta-ban Omega since Guilard has 4 tanks, so he should be able to deal with an SPL win without too much issue. But also leaving up Rosenseal would be rough for him. But he also could have just banned out both Zerida and Omega if he really wanted to, instead of Zerida and Juggler. But that's something that could be improved upon, I suppose. So yeah, Guilard really just has no good options here, since Omega can pretty much just strike any square behind Albedo for free. And he won't be safe behind Landius since Omega can just run in and hit him for free, teleport out, and then move on his merry way. Yeah, so what Guilard might be counting on at the moment is just having Omega risk killing the Bozal. Yeah. Okay, that's not a good... Yeah, because if he moves Bozal into range of Omega at the moment, then his Bozal's pretty much dead. Yeah. Yeah, that's not that great since Bozal's still just not in range of any of Tomato's units, so pretty much this is another dead turn, another turn where just Bozal can't act. So, and just the more turns that go on, the more the less chance Guilard will have to win because the fog's closing in, and he'll have less room to move around, while Tomato will still have the same range that he does right now. And Leanna's act again will be up in about, I believe, 2 turns. Yeah, so once that's up again, there's really not much he'll be able to do. And so Leanna drops Gospel on Omega, so that'll give him pretty much a chance to just ignore the debuffs from Licorice's talent. Yeah, and unfortunately that may be blocking Omega from moving, from taking out his Bozal, but the thing is, that's also blocking his Bozal, so Bozal still is not in range at all. Though if he moves his Albedo once, he will be able to block off. Well, if he moves his Albedo like 1 square to the left, up or down, that'll create enough space for Bozal to strike Landius. But the thing is, Tomato could also just move his Landius out of the way. So yeah, still he's not in a good spot. And that Albedo won't be able to do anything to the Landius. So yeah, I don't see how Guilard can really come back from this. His team just cannot deal with that Omega at all. Okay, so it looks like, well, Guilard is running out of time to think, so he'll have to move soon, no matter what. Okay, 20, 19, 18, 17. Okay, so Guilard pretty much did what I thought he would, in that he moved Albedo all the way so he could create space for Bozil to drop his AoEs, but Tomato just has so many options to play around that it's not an issue, and it looks like at this point, Tomato is just baiting out the Bozil, because that Omega will just counter kill him without an issue. Though. Okay, so yeah, Guilard is really running out of options at this point. Like, Tomato will still have two actions after this, and there's not much he can really do about this. Though, Omega's faction buff will run out this turn, so if he doesn't attack at this moment, then Omega will probably need to wait for another buff from he'll probably need to wait for another buff from Bozil, but that really isn't a huge issue. Yeah, so Bozil's pretty much positioning in a way so if Omega moves up, he'll get smacked with a bunch of debuffs, but what Tomato could do is just move his Omega back and then just wait for another buff from Bozil. And then I believe next turn Leanna's act again will be up again, and he'll just have even. Okay, so it looks like Omega's just gonna start applying pressure to Albedo. So yeah, there is absolutely no way his Bozil can avoid Omega now. So this looks pretty much like GG. Yeah, because Guillard's team just has has such short range. There's no real way for him to come back from this. Okay, so he's gonna faction buff, but unfortunately, that's also in the range of Omega. So Omega just run up and take him out whenever he wants to. But he's probably just gonna wait for a buff from Bozil first. So yeah. Yep, so Bozil just buffs up Omega, and then Omega's just gonna take out that Bozil probably this turn, and there's really nothing Tomato can do. So after Bozil gets taken out, Omega will probably just go in and just keep smacking his team until he dies. So yeah, and there's no way for Guilard to get through that Landius at all. So yeah. Yeah. Huh, that's interesting. I wonder if that was a mistake. Oh, never mind. It's just he was getting the extra crit. Yeah, he was just getting the extra crit, but he didn't even crit Bozil anyway, so it didn't really matter. So yeah, this is 100% GG. Yeah. Yeah, and the Albedo pretty much just bounces off Landius. Alright, so looks like, yeah, Tomato takes the first game, and I'm going to hide my screen again, so in case Guilard wants to make any changes. Let me just throw up my loading screen. There we go. So yeah, we're in the backup box phase now, and yeah, we'll have to see if Guilard will be able to find any counters to Omega, or if he just changes his ban strategy for next game. Because I don't think the pick ban phase really worked in Guillard's favor, since he let Omega through and Omega just walked all over him. Yep. So we got about a little over a minute. Well, a little under a minute. Yeah, a little over a minute before this phase is forced to end. So yeah, I can definitely say that these changes are definitely interesting, even though you can't see them. Yep. In any case, yeah. Yep, yep. So for this game, we'll just have to see if there's any major changes on Tomato's side. I honestly don't think there will be, since uh, Guillard's box is uh, it's very defensive in that it has four just four different tanks, and if he really wants to get Guillard really wants to get something done, he's going to need to pick up units with a lot more range or skill to deal with Omega, or he needs to just change up his ban strategy so he doesn't let any assassins get through, uh, since Tomato's box I believe it only had 3 assassins in the form of Zerida, Illustrial, and Omega. So yeah, it looks like Tomato got rid of his Deedlit, and let me just bring this back. So it looks like Tomato got rid of his Deedlit and uh, swapped in Sophia, and this time Gillard first bans Omega, which is it's a very fair pick. So I think this might pressure Tomato into picking up one of his other assassins first, since as you can see in the last game, Gillard's box is fairly vulnerable to assassins. Yeah, Omega lols. Omega is very good in very specific situations, i.e., if the enemy team has very short-legged AoE mages. And yeah, it looks like Tomato picked up Zerida first, since um, assassins will be key to win, are very strong against Gillard's box. So it looks like Gillard is gonna get rid of the Act Again units. So since that also helped mess him up last time. So from here, it looks like Gillard is trying. Yeah, he first picks Yulia to assassin to have his carry unit to basically have a carry unit that is pretty resilient against assassins due to her revives. So from here, what Tomato probably will end up doing is he might pick up Juggler to just start locking down Gillard's multi-tank box. Plus, Juggler will provide good AoE and some good healing, though he does struggle a bit against Yulia, since she is all magic damage and she can dispel buffs and lock him down as well. But yeah, we'll see what Tomato picks up. I definitely could see him picking up Bozel here, since Bozel does synergize with Zerida pretty well, and he does pretty well against Gillard's multi-tank box if he gets rid of. Oh, it looks like he actually is going to get rid of both Landius and Albedo, and I can imagine he would first pick up SPL1 here, because Juggler does struggle a bit against SPL1, especially if the Juggler doesn't have rock golems built up. But it looks like Tomato actually picked up Rosenseal here instead, so his box is a bit more resilient against AoEs. But the thing is, Gillard isn't running as many AoEs this time around, so Rosenseal's efficacy may be a little bit lower than Tomato is expecting. Okay, so here Tomato is going to lose Rien and Bozel, so He's going to pretty much be forced to using single target attackers for this match. And I'm not 100% sure about Yulia's ability to take single target hits, but she should be fine since she has a revive. She should be fine since she has a revive, and she pretty much always stays in water due to her exclusive and her talent and all that stuff. Plus, she can stun people sometimes. Okay, so looks like Tomato Guilard is running out of backup time, or no, it was Tomato who was running out of backup time. And now he has about 10 seconds to pick up his next unit. And he picks up SPL1 this time. So SPL1 should be fairly good against Lucia since he'll block her and he'll be immune to debuffs. Yeah, and here Guilard is probably going to get rid of any units that really synergize with Elwyn. Yeah, but he's kind of being torn between banning those synergistic units with Elwyn instead of buying out a Juggler who can really be troublesome for him. So here, Guilard is going to pick up Sophia since he doesn't have many healers left, so it's kind of a safe pick since there's less chance for Guilard to actually draft a second healer unless it's like Licorice, where she can act as an AoE mage instead, and Tomato bans out what's her name? He bans out Rosalia and Shaltir since that to cut down on Guillard's range, and then Guilard is going to get rid of Yulia and Rachel. Yep, Yulia and Rachel, because they are magic single target units who could really mess up his tank. And that leaves Tomato with Landius last pick or Sophia last pick, and I imagine he'd pick up Sophia at this point. And then Guilard is going to pick up. He's going to pick up something. Well, he has less than 20 seconds to pick up something, but it looks like he's gravitating towards Frozen Seal. But he might go for Juggler. You never know. Boo, boo, ba doo doo. You never know. Yep, he picks up Juggler, so that'll allow him to build up a lot of safe space since he has 2 tanks, and I bet both Lucia and Juggler have some like Lancer troops that can deal with Elwyn. And from here, Tomato probably banned out Renata and Licorice, and then he left Rose and Seal and Bozel. And then he's going to probably pick up Sophia here. Nope, he picked Landius instead. So I think he might try to stun one of Guillard's tanks, but if Guillard picks up Rose and Seal, that's not going to happen. So, one second, let me just pop up my loading screen and hide that. So yeah, we're in the skill and troop pick phase, and I think Tomato's team is going to have a little bit more trouble this time since he doesn't have like an easy win condition where he just goes Omega Lols and kills everything on Guillard's team. And what I believe will end up happening is Guilard is going to try to rely on Yulia to essentially carry him and I think that's a fairly good strategy since Yulia is very good against double tank teams, and Tomato really doesn't have any good ways to hit that Yulia once she godly menaces. and he can assassinate her as well with Zerda due to her revives. And the only real people that Zerda would really want to hit or could really kill are Sophia and Rosenseal, who Rosenseal also has a revive, and Sophia is likely just to stay back and then use rewind when needed. So yeah, I think Tomato is gonna have a lot of trouble with this one. But what I envision is going to happen again is it's probably going to be a race to the center again, since the damage potentials on both teams are fairly low due to double tanks. But Tomato has a little bit more flexibility since he has Zerda who can go in and assassinate somebody, and he has Elwyn who has just really good movement in general. And he can run over water as well, so if he runs unicorns, so it'll be really hard to lock him down. And then Tomato also has Juggler, who can potentially lock down Guillard's tanks as well, so there's that. Okay, and that phase is ended. I will hide that, and then I'll pop this back up. So yeah, looks like Zerda is pretty much going to... is not running Heart of Alhazard. She's running faction buff, backstab, and shadow raid. So it looks like he's gonna try to assassinate either of Guillard's healers if they get in range. And yeah, pretty much Guilard is gonna just try to shove his Yulia into Tomato's team and hope Tomato, well, hope that one, his positioning is good to keep his Yulia protected, and two, he hopes his Yulia has enough damage to bust through both Landius and Juggler. But if he really needs to focus on taking out Elwyn and Zerda first, since they will be a huge thorn in his side if he doesn't take them out early enough. So yeah, here it's just kind of a race to the middle as usual. So they have priority against the fog. And what I can see happening is Lucia will try to chain hook one of Tomato's tanks so his Yulia can just safely smack it and hopefully kill it off without having any of Tomato's units follow up. Okay, so Guilard just sets up both of his guard skills, and Elwyn really can't do much at this point because one, his faction buff isn't up. Hello, Q. And yeah, his faction buff isn't up, and Rosenseal is also there to prevent him from heal blocking either Lucia or heal block either Lucia or Juggler. So I don't believe Elwyn will be able to do much, and it looks like Guilard gets a pretty nice breeze proc on his Yulia, so that's another thing that Tomato's gonna have to deal with. So yeah, he might have some trouble against that, since Landius really won't be able to guard Juggler if Tomato throws his Juggler into Yulia and Guillard's Juggler. And yeah, it also applies a bit of pressure on Zerda since she has less movement to less space to move around. Yep. So Elwyn gets a stack from Rosenseal, and I think here Rosenseal's just gonna use the mass crystal healing to start applying her buff to his team. And that will make just Guillard's life really hard. I mean, not Guilard, Tomato's life very hard. So yeah. Yeah, so Tomato is going to really have to think hard about what he wants to do here since he's kind of in a team. I think his team is kind of at a disadvantage at the moment. So yeah, Sophia applies her buffs to his entire team. So Elwyn is going to hit even not less hard. So I think, yeah, that's Rosenseal's actually in kill range for, yeah, she's actually in kill range at the moment. So what? Okay, looks like Tomato is going to play a bit safe. Also, Tomato brought a great dragon barrier. That's kind of interesting because I'd assume Guilard would, not Guilard, but Tomato would want to have 2B shocks to give him a chance to try to skirt around Guillard's tanks, but doesn't look like he did it. So yeah, he's gonna have a really hard time just getting rid of that Yulia in general. So here, I think he might just be waiting for Sophia to get in range and make a mistake, or yeah. Oh, nope. Yeah, there it looked like Guilard wanted to try to chain hook Zerda, but she was just out of range. So here, Rosenseal is going to throw down her 3C, or not. Yeah, so let's see if he actually does that. Guilard actually does this. Okay, so Guilard throws down Rosenseal's 3C, and that protects her from getting assassinated from Zerda for as long as that skill is up, and it applies a bunch of crystal barriers to his team and does a big heal, which doesn't really do anything since his team, Guillard's team was at full health, and essentially Tomato's kind of just waiting for Guilard to make a mistake, but Guilard is playing fairly safely at this moment, so there's not a lot he can do except just wait for Zerda to keep Zerda in range of the Sophia to assassinate her, because at this point, that's the only person Zerda can kill. Okay, so it looks like Tomato is moving his Landius back, so if Juggler comes in and tries to lock down Zerda, then he can safely just go and Sword Soul the Juggler and potentially kill it off next turn. But it looks like... yeah, but it looks like that might be an ish. Yeah, it might be... yeah, it looks like Tomato is actually just waiting till Guilard has 2 units to move, and then he's gonna go in Sword Soul one of his tanks, and then since he has the first action next turn, Elwyn will just go in and do it again and kill off one of Guillard's tanks. But the thing is, Guilard really only needs 1 tank to win this, well, plus Yulia. So really, Tomato should be trying to focus on putting Yulia in a position where she can get killed off, or where he can dispel all of her buffs, since Yulia is only okay without Godly Menace, but she is pretty good against double tanks since she can just freely heal off them and not die. Yeah, this is smart. Tomato is essentially just positioning his Zerda in a way where she has a lot of space to move and potentially hit Guillard's team. But the thing is, next turn Guillard could also just go in and chain hook the Zerda, and that would force him to move Zerda early, while also giving him a bit of extra advantage. Plus, I'm not 100% sure moving Sophia up early like that would be a good idea. Yeah, I feel like that move was a mistake since Zerda now has an easy shot to just go in and kill off Sophia, unless Guilard moves up and puts Zerda in a position where she can't get guarded by Juggler. So yeah, this is a very positioning heavy game, and Tomato definitely has the advantage in positioning due to all of his high mobility units. But uh, yeah, okay. So it looks like Tomato isn't going to do what I thought he might do earlier, in that he's going to just throw in Elwyn this turn and yeah, potentially hit. Yeah, yeah, throw in Elwyn this turn and potentially kill off one of Guillard's tanks, which I personally think is a smart move since honestly that's not Tomato's win condition. His win condition is pretty much to kill off Yulia. Yeah, and I think Tomato is pretty much in a safe spot to just go up and kill, that Sophia, unless Gillard positions his Yulia up that aggressively. Because if he does that, then Yulia is covered by one of his tanks. Yeah, Tomato is gonna have to deal with that Yulia. Oh, and the Yulia gets a breeze again. So yeah, that's not great. Not great at all. So potentially what Tomato might do next turn is he could Juggler 3C with into the square between Alucia and Yulia. That would make Yulia susceptible to getting hit by Elwyn, or he could take out Sophia with Elwyn, or he could take out the Sophia with Zerda pretty safely. But the thing is, if Tomato's B shot gets dispelled by the Yulia, then that he'll be in a bit of trouble. So yeah, it looks like that's what Tomato is thinking of doing, since he's giving his juggler a couple more buffs. So it's less likely for him to get his B shock dispelled. Okay, so Tomato's actually going in here. Not Tomato, but Guilard uses Juggler's 3C, and let's see if that actually does anything, because Guilard still has the crystal healing on Juggler, so he should get healed back up to full. So I'm not 100% sure if that's really really the correct decision. Okay, so he hits Zerda with Master of Ice, but it doesn't do much since he still has the crystal healing. She probably has last rites up, and yeah, and she still has a defensive buff up. So I believe here he was just positioning Juggler to cover his Yulia, or maybe he's trying to create a trap for the enemy Juggler, since yeah, but that gives Tomato the opportunity to just 3C in between both his tanks and then just start wailing on that Yulia or his Sophia if he really wants to. That 3C kind of looked like a mistake on Tomato's part. I mean, not Tomato, Gillard's part. Yeah, because this will be interesting, because Tomato can definitely go in and 3C and potentially lock down both of Gillard's tanks. But the thing is, if B-Shock gets dispelled from Juggler, then Tomato's kind of back to square one. Though he can probably just go in and assassinate. Oh, he just goes in and assassinates the Sophia anyways, and he's probably just gonna. Oh, and then Zerda gets out due to having, I believe, no, not having Sly Stride. Yeah, that's not gonna. Yeah, I don't think chain hooking Zerda is going to do much at this point since now uh, Tomato can just go in and 3C protect the Zerda. Oh, he doesn't have 3C on his dog. That's a good point. And Great Dragon Barrier's down now, so that's a pretty dead Zerda. Yeah, I think Tomato really should have brought 3C on a juggler. Oh, Q, are you gonna cover Jurg's match? Okay, if you're going to if you're going to cover if you're gonna play now, you'll have to find another. Okay. Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Q. I thought I would have to cover that as well as this match, but yeah. So in any case, Juggler gets locked down by Yulia, and yeah. But yeah, yeah, that Zerda's in a bit of a bind now since she's get locked down by the Yulia, and the Elwyn really can't do much at this point because both tanks have the Rosen Seal guard stuff guard fact up. Though what he could do is he could try to hit the Rosen Seal. No, he's actually gonna go after the Juggler now since he already used 3C. Very smart. So yeah, the Juggler has pretty much no buffs at this moment, and he will probably hit. Oh, he's still in water, so he will still hurt. He'll still hurt, but it won't be too bad. And the Juggler might be able to survive another hit from Yulia. Yeah, I'm just kind of curious why Tomato didn't bring B-Shock in this situation, because that would be pretty useful in locking down both of Guillard's tanks. Okay. So yeah, it's not looking great for Guillard. He might be able to clinch this out with Yulia, but Yulia has no attack buffs anymore, so she's going to be hitting like a wet noodle. And his Rosen Seal is pretty much indisposed at this moment. And I think overall, Tomato has more DPS at the moment, so he'll be able to pretty much win via damage at this point, since all of Guillard's skills are pretty much down. And the Juggler will be able to kill off the Elwyn's first life, but yeah. Yeah, this could still go either way. Okay, so looks like, that's a very curious move, since that puts the Landius in range of the Juggler, and it actually locks down the Yulia. Yeah, I don't think that was a great move, honestly. Yeah, because Landius can't guard the Juggler at the moment due to Yulia's aura. I think Tomato might have overlooked that. And Zerda can't move at all. She's in a really big bind. And then, yeah, Juggler can just hit the Elwyn right now and reduce his HP to pretty much nothing. Yeah. Oh, but the Elwyn lives. So that's pretty bad for him. So Tomato might actually move his Rosen Seal in 3C right here. Oh wait, but if he did that, the Elwyn would lose his revive, so that wouldn't be a great move. He could just use 3C right then. Oh, no, he's just going to heal up his Juggler. Yeah, I wonder if Tomato actually brought 3C on his Juggler. I mean, not Juggler, his his Rosenseal, and that's a very dead Zerida. So yeah, Yulia is going to be a little bit less effective since her Godly Menace is down now, but she can still hit fairly well, fairly hard. Yeah, but I think he's still in a bit of a bind since Tomato will be acting last now, so that'll give him an opportunity to move Elwyn around and cause a lot of mayhem. Yeah, but I think at this moment, Guilard might actually be up in damage, so Tomato will really want to start attacking like crazy now, or he might want to try to take out the Rosenseal if he doesn't guard her. Yeah, it still could go either way. Tomato still has a win condition in Elwyn, and then Guilard still has a win condition in Yulia. But the Yulia, like I said, does not have access to any attack buffs now, so she's not going to be doing much, ton of damage, especially Zealots, since they're not going to get their attack, defense, and magic defense boost, since they won't have any damage, and that was questionable. Yeah, I think he did that to allow him to guard his Elwyn, but his Elwyn still has a life, so he's still a bit safe, and I think the Rosenseal can just go up and cover him. But this will be very interesting, to say the least, because his Elwyn's not in a good spot. Yeah. I really want to ask Guilard to click on the Rosenseal to see if she actually has 3C, because the Rosenseal's 3C could heal Elwyn up very well without getting her into range. And oh my god, Elwyn survives with like 100 HP. That's hilarious. So yeah, even at this point, Guilard probably could take out that Elwyn with a normal attack from Juggler. But Tomato's just going to shove his Landius up and cover him. So that is building some space for his Rosenseal to go up and heal his Elwyn, but we'll see if he actually does that. And now it looks like Guilard is going to start shifting to boxing Tomato out, though I'm not 100% sure he's going to do that, if he really has the space to actually do that effectively. Yeah, okay. So, I believe... Yeah, it looks like Guilard definitely has the advantage in claiming spots for the safe zone, since he has turn priority, and he's just going to move up his Rosenseal next to Juggler and Lucia, and then he'll have 4 out of the 6 spaces. Yeah. Okay, so it looks like Tomato actually didn't bring 3C on Rosenseal. So yeah, Rosenseal's just going to move there. And then Tomato will only have a couple turns to actually try to kill off one of Guillard's tanks to actually claim that a 3rd spot, and it looks pretty iffy, especially since Elwyn won't have his his Sword Soul back up until a little bit later, and Tomato didn't bring any offensive skills on his Juggler, so there's not much he can do, and then the Landius also didn't bring Route, so, well, even if he brought Route, it wouldn't do anything in this situation. So yeah, I think Tomatoes won't be able to take this, since he's pretty much going to get stuck in fog, and he's just going to start losing units left and right. And yeah, unless he gets a lot more Sword Souls off, I don't think he's going to be able to do enough damage to take out one of Tomato's units. Okay, so I believe Elwyn's Reign of Glory should be up next turn, but his Sword Soul's still going to be down, so he still can't do much, and Guilard is just healing, pretty much healing back up to full at this point, so there's not much he can do. And he can't really move, he won't be able to move his Landius much. Yeah, so here he's just gonna probably just try to get more damage. Yeah, he's probably gonna try to get more damage than Guilard at this point, but since he has Yulia, it's just not gonna work very well. Plus, Yulia has Fate, and Gifted Eternal Life, so he's just gonna keep healing his team. Yeah, the clock is really ticking for Tomato at this point, though he does have more damage than Guilard at this point, so he still has a chance to take this if he can survive for another 6 turns and keep his damage up. Yeah, and now the Landius can't move at all. So at this point, I can pretty much just see Tomato trying to just attack with his Landius and Juggler just keep his damage up. But that also gives his Guilard a chance to just counterattack and keep his damage up, so it's going to be very tricky. Plus, Guilard could get B-Shock up soon, so that would be an issue. Also, the Juggler is not in water anymore, so that might be an avenue for Tomato to go down, but he also might just run into Lucia instead. So yeah, Tomato doesn't have a lot of time to think about this. Yeah, and now Juggler's Magic Guard is kind of just biting him in the butt now, since Juggler won't be able to. Doesn't have better troops to deal with Yulia at the moment. Plus, yeah. But yeah, Guilard is slowly catching up at this point. Yeah, this is definitely gonna go to turn 12 at this rate. And Tomato really does not have the advantage at this point, so. Okay, so it looks like Tomato's just gonna keep applying pressure with Elwyn to keep his damage up, while Tomato just keeps attacking to get more damage. So yeah, don't really have much to say since this is gonna be a very slow game and it's gonna go to turn 12 since both teams have 2 tanks left and a healer up. Yeah, that's not gonna do much. Yeah, and it looks like he stole. Lucia stole Elwyn's fusion buff. Okay, so here Elwyn uses Rain of Glory but doesn't attack. I wonder if Tomato just ran out of time, because that could potentially happen, but he also could try to just get his Sword Soul back a little bit earlier, but at that point it would have just been better to wait another turn. Ah, yes. Jurg just pointed out that Lucia's 3C, it stops Act Again effects, so Elwyn actually can't attack again this turn. So that's going to be a bit troublesome for him since he's running out of time to lay on more damage onto Guilard before the fog comes in. But at least we know that both Guilard and Tomato have to act fairly quickly since they don't have any backup time now. Yeah, so I think what Tomato might be trying to do is set up Juggler's Magic Guard after this and then use Master Revise to lay on some extra damage onto Guillard's team. But yeah. But yeah, Juggler... Uh, Tomato is really going to have to make some changes to his units in the safe zone, because having Juggler just keep tanking hits like that is not gonna work out for him in the long run. Yeah, and just here, Lucius just getting healed up by Rosenseal's talent, so there's not a lot he can do. Like, Tomato really needs to move his Rosenseal into where his Juggler is so he can keep healing up Landius. Yeah, and he'll only have one more turn to do. Well, he only really has this turn to do that. Yeah. Yeah, it's really not looking great for Tomato. Like, he's just running out of space to to move, and he doesn't have turn advantage, so the Lucia has the potential of living. Oh, interesting. Yeah, and okay, so looks like Rosenseal is just 3-seeing here, since pretty much her healing effect is pretty much good for now. So I can see Tomato trying to move. Yeah, I can see. Yeah, so here Guilard Tomato moves his Juggler all the way so he can move either his Rosenseal into range, but Guilard can just block him out. So pretty much it'll only be Landius and Elwyn left, and that's not going to work out for him. Well, this meta can be very slow, but that's also because there's so many single target and long range threats to deal with. So, yeah, it's kind of more of a fault. Oh, and Godly Menace is gonna. Well, Gillard can throw down a Godly Menace right here, and that will lock down. Juggler and Rosenseal into Fog, so Tomato's gonna lose both those units. And then, yeah, Tomato really can't hit that Yulia since she's being guarded by 2 tanks. So what's probably going to end up happening is Yulia's just going to finish off Tomato. So yeah, Tomato really needs to throw in Elwyn and just start sword souling, but I don't think that's really going to help. And yeah, now Juggler just dies. And yeah. So Tomato's win condition at this point is to survive till turn 12 with high enough damage to keep this in his favor, but I don't see him being able to do this. Yeah, because Okay, so it looks like yeah. So here, Gillard would pretty much just have the opportunity to just kill off Elwyn this turn with Yulia. and that'll pretty much sink him. Yeah, and that should kill Elwyn. And yep, that's a dead Elwyn. So with 2 turns left and only Landius to keep him afloat, yeah, Tomato pretty much had no chance. Okay, so we're on to game 3. Let me just hide this and then put this back up. Okay, so we are loading and waiting for game 3 to start. So I'd say Tomato didn't have as good of a pick ban phase as he did with the last game. So that's pretty much why he had some trouble dealing with Guillard's team. Like, I think he probably would have wanted to focus on banning out any additional tanks for any additional tanks for Guilard, since Zerda wouldn't be able to help him with those tanks, and Elwyn pretty much has some trouble busting through 2 tanks with a 2 healer support setup. So yeah, I think that game was mostly won via pick ban phase by Guillard's part. So let's see if Tomato can have a little bit of a better pick ban phase this time. Also, Straw, could you find somebody else to cast the Jerk game? That should start in about 30 minutes. I don't know if I'll have the time to swap from this game to the next. Oh, never mind. Q got that. Thanks, Q. Yeah, I thought you were actually playing that. Wasn't sure. Yeah, I read that as you actually playing Jerk, but I must have misread that. Anyways, thanks for covering that. I'm not 100% sure how to actually set up a raid, so yeah, I don't think I'll be able to do that for your channel. Sorry about that. In any case, we are back to the pick ban phase, and let me just pull both that up. Okay. Okay, thanks, Q. I will just take that. Okay, I'll just take that. And then I will put that into stream chat after this. Okay, so looks like Guilard swapped in Mariel this time. I wasn't paying attention who he really got rid of, so oops. And this time it looks like Tomato actually picked up Sophia. Well, he kept in Sophia and then put in Ares. And like last time, Guilard actually banned out Omega first, and then Tomato banned out SPL1 first. So it looks like Guilard might focus on forcing Tomato into a 2-tank setup again, and if he first picks, oh, it looks like he is going to first pick somebody. All right, so what Tomato did again was ban out some DPS on Guillard's part, so it looks like he's gonna force Guilard into 2-tank, 2-healer setup again. Well, Tomato, he has a lot of different paths to build a team, so it'll be interesting to see what he does here. So Guilard picked Sophia first, so I think he might have been scared that Tomato bans out some of his faction buffers for his tanks or DPS, so he wanted to make sure that he had some form of faction buff, some form of buffing on his team. Okay, and so here Tomato gets rid of both Renata and Yulia. Yulia for the resistance to assassination, and then Renata for the ability to follow up on the assassination. Plus, Illustrial's actually really Windy Outpost is Illustrial's best map, so she has a crap ton of range to say the least. Okay, so it looks like it looks like Guilard is banning out Tomato's long range assassin in Zerda, and then the faction buffer for Illustrial in Ledin. But the thing is that opens up Tomato to just picking up Elwyn next and just running tankless. And then Guilard picks up Bozel here, and I'm not 100% sure if that's a safe pick because that could lead to him getting assassinated. Because Illustrial should be able to break through a full HP Bozel even with a Bracer. Okay, so Tomato picks up Lead in here, and I'm kind of questioning why he'd pick that because he doesn't really have any units that really synergize with Landius at the moment. I'd imagine he'd want to pick up somebody like Juggler at this point since he would be able to lock down Guilard, though Guilard also has Rosalia open, so maybe he was scared of that. Okay, so here Tomato loses Leanna and Rose Seal, and then Guilard picks up Licorice, and I'm not 100% sure if that's the right choice because both Licorice and Bozel are fairly vulnerable to assassination. What Tomato could do here is instead of he could pick up Florentia here since she has mass attack and she can also act again as well. Alternatively, he could pick up Sophia to provide some buffs to both Landius and Illustrial. But Tomato, okay, so Tomato wants to, instead of going for Florentia, he goes for Sophia, which will allow him a bit more flexibility with his picks. So I think here, yeah, Guillard's going to pick up, Guillard only has less than 10 seconds to pick, so yeah, he picks up Albedo to counter any potential Elwyn pick. But that also leaves him open to getting locked down by Yulia, though Yulia will be very vulnerable to debuffs and AoE against Guilard at the moment. So Tomato could instead pick up Ares with his 3C and with Wind Whisper and to act as a form of displacement to give him more room to assassinate Bozel or Licorice. Because if he loses Bozel or Licorice, his damage output is going to drop significantly because Guilard only has Rosenseal and Landius to pick from. So I'd imagine Tomato will want to pick up something to deal with Guillard's healing or his tanks. So I imagine he'd pick up somebody like Yulia, huh? That's gonna be fairly risky. Huh. Okay, that leaves that leaves Guillard to being displaced by what's his name? Ares at this point, so yeah. Oh, and Tomato picks up SP Elwyn, so SP Elwyn is probably there for the fact he's definitely going to be there for buffing up Illustrial and Yulia, but Tomato really needs to focus on assassinating either uh, Licorice or Bosel as soon as possible to decrease. Oh, there we go. So yeah, the Tomato's main strategy is pretty much just go in, assassinate either Bosel or Licorice as soon as possible, so Yulia can clean up, while Guilard really doesn't have any ways to prevent Illustrial from just running in and assassinating either of his carry mages. So yeah, I don't. I think Gillard's kind of just stuck in a bad spot at this point. Yeah, like I'm just trying to see a good win condition for Gillard at this moment, and it's not looking great since he just has such short range compared to Tomato, and Tomato can also spread out his units since they both have a massive range. Yeah, the only ones who really have low mobility are Sophia, Landius, and Yulia, and uh, Gillard can pretty much deal with them fairly well. Uh, it's just that Illustrial that. Wait, what? Yeah, it's currently in the troops phase, and I don't want to. I just want to make sure that that information doesn't get leaked. Yeah, so I'll take down the loading screen in a second, like right now, since the troop phase just ended. Okay, so essentially, Gillard's pretty much just stuck way in the back since Illustrial's just gonna roll over. Just roll over both Bosel and Licorice if given the chance. And Landius pretty much can just walk up and do whatever he needs. But yeah, I think SPL one's gonna have some difficulty in this match since he has to go through Albedo. Plus, Gillard also has like 3 healers on his team, so it's pretty low likelihood that SPL one will be able to get through Albedo with 2 attacks. But it's just Illustrial will just bypass all that guarding skills, all of Albedo's guarding stuff, and pretty much just dunk either Bosel or Licorice, unless both have really high defenses, which they don't, and they don't have like Landius Aura to just decrease any damage from Illustrial as well. So yeah, I wonder how long this match will actually go on, since Tomato has such a wild advantage against Gillard at the moment. Yes, this is a first pick Illustrial situation. Like, Gillard first banned Omega since he walked over Tomato pretty hard in the first match. But unfortunately, Tomato actually had 3 assassins in his box, so he can pretty much deal with any like heavily AoE team at the moment. Yeah, like I'm kind of surprised Gillard isn't running somebody like Tree Sage in his box to prevent like long leg assassins from just walking over his box. Because this turn, Illustrial will be able to go in and just assassinate either Bosel or Licorice immediately next turn. And there's not too much he can do about that since he has 2 healers and 1 tank. And then, yeah. And Illustrial should be able to retreat like a good amount since her roundabout is still in range of like difficult terrain. So he could just walk Illustrial all the way back into Landius guard range after he attacks. And Bosel just does not have the range or tankiness to survive Illustrial, and he doesn't have enough range to actually hit Illustrial before he hits him. So looking very, very bad for... Yeah, it's looking very bad for Guilard, to say the least. Like, it seems Guilard really favors running a tank push strategy with AoEs, but the thing is, that strategy is also incredibly vulnerable to assassins and very long-range units. So there's only so much he will be able to do at this point. Like if Tomato doesn't end, well, essentially establishing a win condition by next turn, I will be very surprised. But if I had to say something like overall about this match, it's just that it kind of showcases the weaknesses of tank push against assassins and the importance of the pick ban phase. Yeah, like, if he moves Licorice now, Illustrial's just gonna go in and kill the Bozal next turn. Well, once it's Tomato's turn. And that's really not gonna do anything since Illustrial's just straight out of range. And she can probably just run out of range as well. No? Yeah. Yeah, so there's really nothing Guilard can do at the moment. Like, this, yeah. Licorice is just going to throw down some terrain, and then Illustrial's just going to go in, kill the Bozal, run back out, and then get healed by Sophia. And then pretty much just wait to do it again to Licorice. Okay, so Tomato's moving up Landius so he can just cover Illustrial after he assassinates a unit. And also Elwyn's also just applying a bunch of pressure to Guilard as well, so there's really not much Guilard can do. Like, all Tomato really needs to do is just get rid of Bozal and then just start moving in Yulia. And then once Yulia gets close enough to Albedo, she can just lock her down with Godly Menace. And there's really not much Guillard's healers can do. So yeah. Okay, so it looks like Guilard. So it just kind of looks like Tomato's just burning turns. So Guilard has even less options to respond to Illustrial, but at this point, Tomato really, well, Guilard really doesn't have any tools to deal with Illustrial in the first place, unless he's not confident Illustrial can assassinate Bozal, which is a fair assessment, but just from what I know about Illustrial, she can probably just dunk that Bozal without too much issue. Yeah, like, even then, the Bozal has less than 700 defense with a Sophia buff, and the Illustrial will probably get about like plus 1500 attack once she does respond. So yeah, there's really nothing Sophia can really do. Sophia or Bozal can do. Like, possibly Tomato's trying to burn out these turns, so Guilard doesn't get turn advantage, but I don't think that should be a major concern for him. Like that, like if he moves Sophia, then he's pretty much just looking to retain turn advantage. Well, he's not even retaining turn advantage against Guilard since he won't be acting first no matter what. So yeah, I'm just kind of bamboozled why Tomato hasn't gone in and just killed the Bozal. Okay. So, Tomato just buffs up Illustrial and Alandius. It really shouldn't really matter that much, I suppose, since they already had 30% magic defense from the faction buff, and they do get the 30% defense, but Guilard is pretty much running mages, and the only physical damage would be Albedo. So yeah, so Guilard, Tomato is just gonna go in and assassinate either Licorice or Bozal at this point. He'd probably want to get rid of the Bozal since his Elwyn really can't deal with him since Bozal has Lancer troops. So yeah, we're just waiting for Tomato to determine which unit he wants to kill. Yeah. What do you think Tomato's gonna do to viewers? Do you think he's gonna take out the Licorice, or he's gonna take out the Bozal, or he might be cheeky and take out the Rosen Seal? Your call. But yeah, I would be very surprised. Yeah, I would also say Bozal. Like, if this Bozal... I'll be very surprised if this Bozal survives, because what could happen is the Illustrial just dispels Bozal's defense buff, and then he dies, like, almost immediately. Though it looks like he got a damage decreased buff from Tenyo, so that might help him. But there is no, like, Landius aura to decrease range damage further, so yeah. Yeah, I'm just waiting for Tomato. Well, Tomato has basically 3 minutes to determine which unit he wants to kill. Like, personally, I think he probably would want to kill Bozal, since he inflicts a lot more debuffs than Licorice. And if his Sophia has Goddess tier, then he should be able to just dispel all those debuffs on his entire team, like, within 1 or 2 rounds. So yeah, just waiting. But yeah, if I had to say anything like in the long term, I think it's more just Guilard. Guillard's box just, it has a lot of good AoE, but it's just not really well. Oh, he's going in for the onrush against Licorice. Oh, and he avoids the difficult terrain from Bozal, so yeah. He can actually just go in and take out the Bozal next turn. Yeah. Though. That just leaves his Illustrial open to getting slapped with like an Earthquake or a Black Hole. And that might take a couple turns to get rid of. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure if that was the correct move on Guillard's part. Maybe he just wanted to make sure that his Illustrial survived. But all he really needs to do is just move Illustrial back and just heal her up, and then she's good to go next turn. Yeah, you can even just start moving back, because yeah, you can even just start moving back, so he has a better terrain advantage. Like, he doesn't need to rush himself at all at this point. Just needs to heal up, get rid of debuffs, and then smack the Bozal with Jade Storm, and then this game's pretty much over. Yeah, the only downside to this current strategy that Tomato went with is that he may not be able to assassinate the Bozal, because he'll be able to go onto defensive terrain. But yeah, otherwise, it's still not looking good for Guilard since just Tomato such has a humongous mobility advantage against him. Yeah, and he can just spread out with his team to just take out Guillard's Bozal. Also, I think Guillard's name is actually pronounced Guilard. I don't know. Oh, and now he can send in Yulia next turn. So, yeah, this is very, very GGE at the moment. Like, there really doesn't seem like there's any good moves for Guilard at the moment. Guilard. I'll just keep calling him Guilard. Yeah. So yeah, what's probably just going to end up happening is Tomato's just going to heal up his units, make sure all the debuffs are off Celestial, and then just go in next turn and go in again and kill off the Bozal. And Guilard has less less chances to deal with this because now he has 4 units, and so Tomato will essentially have 2 units to act before he gets to act again. Yeah, so yeah, the only debuff Celestial has on her is just the passive debuff, so no roundabout, but that's not really a huge deal. Plus, Yulia can just go in now and just godly menace, but he'd only be able to lock down Rosenseal, which isn't a high priority target. So yeah, what Tomato could do is you could just wait till next turn, wait for Licorice's goop to wear out, and then just finish off the Bozal. Because Celestial just has so much movement at this point that Bozal really can't do much. Yeah, so probably what's going to end up happening is just Elwyn's going to move back, so Guilard can't get a cheeky black hole on his Tomato's entire team. But even then, that's a low priority, that's not really a huge deal since Tomato could pretty much send in Yulia and just become an obstacle for Guilard and just potentially slow him down. Yeah, at this point, what Tomato could do is just swing his L1 around the back of Albedo, get rid of her troops, and then just finish off her first life with Yulia, and then have Celestial finish off Bozal. But it looks like, yeah, even then, that's still not enough because Celestial can still reach Bozal with Jade Storm. So yeah, it's not looking good for Guilard. Or Guilard, whatever. But yeah, Guilard is running out of time. Well, so is Tomato, so yeah. So Tomato just moved his Elwyn back since he doesn't really need to go in, and plus he won't really do much at the moment. And then Bozal either needs to move back or land a hit on Tomato, but he really can't do that at the moment. Yeah, so if Bozal goes down, Guilard is pretty much sunk since he doesn't have any. He won't have any EPS left. Plus, Alessio will probably still be up, so he can just take down Albedo with no issue. Though I will admit, those Lancer soldiers are really bulky. Like, they have 1500 defense, well, 1500 HP, which is pretty obscene. So yeah, all it really depends on when if Tomato's able to assassinate Bozel, because if he is, Guilard will pretty much have nothing left on his team to do damage. I have no idea what that message said, so I'm not gonna address it. But yeah, I don't really see how Guilard could win at this moment unless Tomato makes a lot of errors at the moment. Yeah. And yeah, Bozel goes down to Jade Storm. So yeah, it is pretty much over. Yeah, like Yulia doesn't even need to go in. She can just walk closely to walk just closely to Albedo and just do a bunch of damage and then finish her off. Oh, and you'll actually lose a life to that. Like, Albedo actually does hit surprisingly hard when she's 6-star and counterattacking. But that's not really an issue because Yulia can just go in and take out either Sophia or Rosenseal at the moment since her aura's up. Yep, and it looks like that's the game. So yeah, pretty interesting matches. Games 1 and 3 were pretty much won by assassins, while game 2 was a very slow tank push situation where Guilard won via Yulia. But in any case, that's all from me. Thanks for joining me, everyone, and I am going to send you over to Q. All right. Take care, everyone. Bye.